Fuel Guy here with PFS, and I want to talk with you today about a problem that has been increasing dramatically over the last few years in our fuel systems, gasoline and diesel fuel. The majority, however, is found in the diesel fuel market. Now I'm talking about microbial contamination like bacteria and fungus growth. They call them microbes or bugs in the fuel. And these can create tremendous problems in your fuel system. Many people have never even heard of such a thing until the last few years, and this is due to an incredible increase in these bugs. I know there's been a lot of research articles written about microbial contamination. Most of them are written without the normal consumer in mind. And even if you could find them and have access to them, you'd need 4 years of Latin to even understand it, right? Now, there are a number of reasons for the dramatic increase in growth, not one thing in particular. So, first, the microbes love warm environments, and fuel that has water in it, they love that. They use the fuel in the water for oxygen, and the fuel itself as a food source. Then they proceed to multiply, creating waste in your system that can be so acidic that it can actually dissolve stainless steel. Tanks, cans, whatever it is, it can dissolve it. Now, if you look, you can see the damage done to these tanks and the fuel system components that have had bugs in them. And I've personally seen fuel filters that had holes dissolved through the filters within 2 weeks of installation, pouring fuel out onto the ground. You know, some customers actually believe that they have purchased a bad fuel filter at times when they end up with a hole in them. But in actuality, it is due to microbes in your fuel system eating those tiny pinholes in them. And it can happen very quickly. You know, there's over 100 different types of bugs that can grow in your fuel, and none of them are helpful, but some are very aggressive, far more than others. Now, another reason we've seen the increase is because most of the vehicles sold today have a very hot fuel return that constantly keeps your fuel and tank warm and accumulating water from the condensation. Now, add on to that the additional problem of these super tight fuel filters that they have in the new engines. And although these filters are great for keeping your fuel system clean, they are terrible in the cold. And in order to keep that fuel flowing through them when the cold weather hits, many times people will run a fuel heater or a filter heater. This again just adds fuel to the fire. But there's more. Ultra low sulfur grows microbes at a much higher rate than high sulfur did. Then you add biodiesel to the mix and you have created a perfect growing environment. Now, these bugs can grow in abundance all year long, especially now. Keeping that fuel warm, keeping it full of water or oxygen, it grows all year long, not just the summer months like it used to. You know, fuel that is stored is also more prone to problems, and above ground tanks by nature have far more water in them, making it even worse. Because the problem is growing, it is becoming easier and easier to contaminate a perfectly healthy tank by simply fueling up at a pump after somebody with a contaminated tank fills up before you. And they contaminate the fuel nozzle, which contaminates your tank. There's also been an increase in gasoline problems due to some of the same factors, and the removal of the lead in the gasoline has made the problem even worse. You know, in some cases, microbial problems can be very noticeable, but in others, problems are not so apparent. Just because your tanks are not covered in green slime does not mean you're in the clear. So don't fool yourself into thinking it's not going to happen to you. Chances are it will, and especially if you're running a diesel. Something to keep in mind is that low-level microbial contamination can be every bit as costly as a major infection, maybe even worse, because it goes unnoticed forever. And if it's not looked into and found, it means it takes your system out a little at a time, over and over and over. Microbes in your fuel can cause a wide assortment of problems, even in low levels. A prematurely plugged filter or a bad smell in your fuel, similar to rotten eggs, can both be a good indicator that you may be a victim and you need to check for contamination yourself. And you can do that with our Microbial Test Kit. You can get this online or get it from your local dealer. Or you can buy a cutting tool and cut open a filter and examine the inside for a green, brown, black, possibly even a clear slime. Now, PFS recommends checking your fuel filter every time you change it. And an easy way to check your canister style fuel filters is to use our filter cutter. Both the filter cutter, the Microbial Test Kit, are found under our fuel tools section of the website. Something else to make sure, check your bulk fuel tanks also. Checking the tanks, checking the filters, and believe it or not, tanks that have a high volume turnover can have the largest potential for problems, either vehicle or bulk tanks. The more fuel that passes through that tank, the bigger chance that you're going to have a problem. Let's say you have this contamination. How you handle it depends upon the degree of the problem. If it's severe with lots of debris in your tanks, you may need to drain them, whether it's a fuel tank on a vehicle or a bulk fuel tank. And then follow up the treatment as follows. Treating the problem is important as it can be, but it's very easy and it's inexpensive. Simply use our FQS 1.5 biocide, the best on the market, and you can find it on our website. And although it's not a continuous use additive, if you have microbial contamination, we recommend that you treat twice the first 3 months and then every 6 months from that point on to avoid recontamination. An important note here, do not undertreat this problem or you stand a chance of creating a much harder to treat problem than you already have. These bugs can be smart, and without enough biocide to kill them all on the first treatment, they can learn how to protect themselves against the poison. And that's an excellent reason for you to stay away from the over-the-counter diluted biocides. A quart of Kathon treats 2,500 gallons of diesel fuel. It's easy to use and easy to measure. Now, a biocide only kills the bugs, but it is important to follow up by treating your fuel system with specific PFS fuel treatment for your gas or diesel application, and not just once. PFS fuel treatments contain a detergent dispersant additive designed to remove the byproducts of these bugs and the water safely, a little at a time, each and every time you fuel. And it's an easy solution to the problem, but it is not a quick one. Treating every time you fuel removes the debris and keeps the fuel system clean from the bug's waste. It also helps keep the water out of your fuel, which is where the bugs get their oxygen supply. So be sure to check out our other clinics on each of our fuel tools, our FQS biocide, and some of the great information on how to best care for and protect your equipment and treating your fuel right. Now remember to hit the like and subscribe button and share these with your friends. And then check out our website and subscribe to our free newsletter for more great information in detail. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So get on, share your PFS stories. Get out there, treat your fuel right, and thank you for choosing PFS.